Few people could claim to have built an empire from nothing, but Elliot Vaughn was one of them. By the age of 40, he had become a legend in the tech industry, the mastermind behind Nova Dynamics, a company that revolutionized artificial intelligence and robotics. His name was spoken with admiration in boardrooms across the world. His face had graced the covers of top business magazines, and his innovations shaped the future. Yet, despite his immense success, Elliot remained an enigma. He avoided the spotlight, rarely attended high-profile events, and kept his personal life locked away from public view. His penthouse in the heart of San Francisco was a symbol of his wealth, a sleek and modern masterpiece overlooking the city skyline. But to Elliot, it wasn't a home, it was a fortress, a place where the world couldn't reach him. His journey to the top had been anything but easy. He had grown up in a struggling household, the eldest of 4 children in a cramped 2-bedroom apartment. From an early age, he knew he wanted more. While other kids spent their afternoons playing, Elliot would roam the scrapyards, collecting discarded electronics and piecing together crude machines. By 12, he had built his first functional robot. By 17, he had won a national coding competition that earned him a full scholarship to Caltech. At university, Elliot's mind operated on a different level. He saw the world not for what it was, but for what it could become. His projects astonished professors, and before he even graduated, tech giants were offering him positions. But his ambition wasn't just fueled by talent, it was driven by something far deeper. In his early 20s, Elliot had been in love once. It was the kind of love that consumed him, that made him believe in something beyond logic. But it wasn't enough. The woman he adored walked away, choosing someone whose wealth and status far outshined his. That betrayal cut deeper than any failure ever could. It was then that Elliot made a silent vow. He would never again let his worth be defined by someone else. After graduation, he took a high-paying job at a leading tech corporation. Within 5 years, he had risen to an executive position. But it wasn't enough. He wasn't meant to follow, he was meant to build. So at 29, he left everything behind, poured his savings into a tiny garage, and started Nova Dynamics with nothing but an idea and relentless determination. The years that followed were grueling. Elliot worked tirelessly, pushing boundaries, taking risks that others wouldn't dare. And in the end, it paid off. Nova Dynamics grew at an astonishing rate, dominating the industry and redefining the future of AI. But while his company thrived, Elliot's personal life remained barren. He lived alone, his world revolving around technology and innovation. The only person who had stood by him through it all was Isabel, his housekeeper. She had been with him since the early days, making sure he ate, keeping his home in order, offering quiet companionship without ever prying into his solitude. But even she couldn't fill the emptiness that lingered inside him. Books became his escape, especially science fiction and classic literature. Every night, long after the city had gone to sleep, he would sit by the massive glass windows of his penthouse, a novel in hand, letting his mind drift to other worlds. The media speculated endlessly about him, the reclusive genius, the billionaire who never seemed interested in love, the man who had everything, yet remained alone. His aura of mystery only made him more desirable, but Elliot had long stopped caring. Love had once broken him. He had no intention of letting it do so again. Meanwhile, Nova Dynamics stood as a beacon of progress, its innovations changing the world faster than anyone could have imagined. But for Elliot Vaughn, the question remained, was success enough, or was there something missing that he refused to acknowledge? Under Elliot Vaughn's leadership, Nova Dynamics was reshaping industries and everyday life. The company's rapid ascent was proof of his ability to anticipate market shifts before they happened, pioneering solutions that left competitors struggling to keep up. The firm's headquarters, a towering glass structure in San Francisco's bustling tech district, was a reflection of Elliot's vision, sleek, modern, and built for innovation. Inside, the atmosphere crackled with energy. Engineers and developers worked relentlessly, fueled by the same passion that had driven Elliot since his youth. Yet for all his professional triumphs, Elliot's personal life was a stark contrast. His penthouse, a breathtaking space adorned with avant-garde art and the latest technology, was a symbol of wealth, but not of warmth. It was vast, silent, and ultimately empty. His days followed an unchanging pattern: wake before dawn, dive into work, stay at the office long past sunset, then return to solitude. The only respite came in the form of books. Stacked neatly on shelves that lined an entire wall of his home, his collection ranged from thought-provoking literature to mind-bending science fiction. Each night, he lost himself in these worlds, escaping the pressures of the one he had built. The only person who had truly remained a constant in his life was Isabel, his housekeeper. She had been with him since the earliest days of Nova Dynamics, long before success had polished the rough edges of his existence. More than just an employee, she was a quiet, steady presence, someone who ensured his world remained functional without ever overstepping. Her meals were flawless, her care meticulous, but most importantly, Isabel understood him. She never pried, never asked why a man with everything seemed to have nothing. She simply accepted that Elliot preferred his solitude. His social life was nearly non-existent, limited to business meetings and the occasional high-profile event that he attended out of necessity rather than desire. Networking exhausted him. The small talk, the forced smiles, it all felt like a distraction from what truly mattered. Ironically, his reluctance to engage only fueled his mystique. In the tech world, he wasn't just a billionaire. He was a puzzle people wanted to solve. But Elliot knew exactly why he kept his distance. The past had shaped him. His college years were filled with memories, some inspiring, others painful. Claire, his first love, had been everything to him. She was the only person who had ever seen past his ambitions and into the heart of who he was. Or at least, that's what he had believed. Until the day she walked away, choosing a future with someone whose wealth far exceeded his own. The betrayal had left a scar, one that never fully faded. In the years that followed, Elliot had poured himself into his work, determined to build something so great that no one would ever measure his worth by anything other than his own achievements. Success had come, but at a price. His relentless commitment to Nova Dynamics left no room for distractions, especially not emotional ones. He convinced himself that love and business were incompatible. Relationships were unpredictable, messy. He had built his empire on logic and control, and he wasn't about to risk everything for something as uncertain as companionship. But as Nova expanded globally, so did the expectations placed upon him. Investors and business partners valued personal connections, often weighing trust and relatability as heavily as innovation itself. This reality hit hard when Eduardo Mendoza, a key investor from Spain, expressed serious interest in a collaboration. A traditional man who valued family above all else, Eduardo extended an invitation to a private dinner, one where he expected Elliot to bring a significant other. For the first time in years, Elliot found himself at an impasse. He had no one to bring. More than that, he had never even considered the possibility. His life was built on efficiency, and relationships were never a part of that equation. But this deal was crucial, and for the first time, he faced a challenge he couldn't outthink or outwork. He had to confront the void he had ignored for so long. The dinner was fast approaching, and one thing was clear. Elliot Vaughn couldn't walk into that room alone. For the first time in years, Elliot Vaughn found himself facing a problem that couldn't be solved with algorithms, innovation, or sheer determination. Eduardo Mendoza's dinner invitation wasn't just a business opportunity. It was a challenge that forced Elliot to confront a part of his life he had long neglected. Eduardo was no ordinary investor. A powerhouse in the European tech scene, he was known for his sharp instincts and an unshakable belief in personal connections. He only did business with people he trusted, and trust for Eduardo went beyond financial reports and boardroom pitches. He needed to see the person behind the business. That was why his invitation came with an unusual condition. Elliot had to bring a significant other. The message arrived one evening while Elliot was in his penthouse, absorbed in a book on quantum computing. His assistant, Charlotte, called, her voice laced with hesitation. "Mr. Vaughn, I just spoke with Eduardo Mendoza's office. He's very interested in discussing a potential collaboration with Nova Dynamics." Elliot closed his book and leaned back. "That's good news. So what's the hesitation?" Charlotte hesitated. "Well, there's a condition. Eduardo expects you to bring a significant other to the dinner." It's a tradition of his. He believes that seeing the personal side of a business partner is just as important as the numbers. Elliot sighed, running a hand through his hair. A significant other? Charlotte, you know that's not exactly my priority. I understand, sir, but this dinner is crucial. Eduardo's investment could accelerate Nova's expansion into the European market. Perhaps. She paused carefully. Perhaps you could find someone suitable, just for the evening. The idea was absurd. Elliot had never been one for pretense, and the thought of hiring someone to play a role in his life felt ridiculous. But as much as he despised the concept, he couldn't ignore the stakes. Eduardo's support would open doors that even Nova's reputation couldn't unlock alone. After a long silence, Elliot exhaled. All right, Charlotte. Find someone. She needs to be intelligent, poised, and able to handle high-stakes business conversations. I don't want a distraction. I need a partner who can impress Eduardo. Charlotte's relief was evident over the phone. Understood. I'll compile a list of potential candidates and set up meetings for you. The next day, Elliot met with the candidates Charlotte had meticulously selected. Each woman was well-educated, sophisticated, and socially adept. On paper, they were perfect. Yet, as he spoke with them, he found something missing. One was too rehearsed, another too timid, and yet another too eager to please. There was no authenticity, no natural ease. Frustrated, Elliot decided to clear his head. He left his office and walked to a nearby coffee shop, one of the few places where he could momentarily escape the corporate world. The cafe was warm, bustling with energy, the scent of fresh espresso filling the air. As he waited for his drink, his attention was drawn to a young woman behind the counter. She moved with effortless grace, balancing multiple orders while maintaining a calm and cheerful demeanor. Her name tag read, Lena Carter. Something about her caught his attention. Maybe it was the way she handled difficult customers with patience and charm. Maybe it was the way her dark hair framed her face when she laughed, or the quiet intelligence in her green eyes. Or maybe, just maybe, it was because she looked like someone who belonged in her world, not because of wealth or power, but because she carried herself with confidence, no matter the setting. For the first time in days, Elliot felt a flicker of intrigue. As the line thinned and Lena finally had a brief moment to breathe, Elliot made his move. "Excuse me, Miss Carter," he said, his voice measured but casual. Lena looked up, surprised to see him standing there. "Yes? How can I help you?" Elliot hesitated for half a second, just long enough to realize that, for the first time in years, he had no pre-planned strategy for what came next. And somehow, that made this moment even more interesting. Lena Carter had dealt with all kinds of customers in her time working at the cafe. Impatient executives, absent-minded students, chatty tourists. But never had she been approached with a proposition quite like this. Standing before her was Elliot Vaughn, the elusive, tech billionaire she had only seen in business magazines. He was taller than she expected, his sharp gaze assessing her with quiet intensity. Despite his composed demeanor, there was something almost hesitant about the way he spoke. "Miss Carter," he began, his voice even but deliberate, "I have an unusual request." Lena raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms as she studied him. "I'm listening." Elliot took a measured breath, as if preparing himself for the absurdity of his own words. "I have an important business dinner in a few days. My presence is expected, along with a significant other. But I don't have one. I'd like to hire you to accompany me for the evening. You would, of course, be compensated generously." Lena blinked, momentarily caught off guard. "You want to hire me to pretend to be your girlfriend?" "Yes." Elliot's expression remained unreadable, but there was a flicker of something beneath the surface. Determination, perhaps. "I know it's an unusual request, but I've seen how you handle yourself. You're confident, quick-witted, and adaptable. That's exactly the kind of presence I need at this dinner. Please consider it." Lena's mind raced. The idea was, without a doubt, strange. But the offer had come at a time when she couldn't afford to be picky. Bills were piling up, and her younger brother needed tuition money. An evening of pretending to be someone she wasn't, in exchange for a generous payment? It wasn't the craziest thing she had ever considered. After a brief pause, she nodded. "All right, Mr. Vaughn, I'll do it. But I have a few conditions of my own." Elliot didn't hesitate. "Of course. Name them." A small smirk played on Lena's lips. We keep things strictly professional. No pretending beyond the dinner. And I expect full honesty. I need to know exactly what I'm walking into. Elliot inclined his head. Agreed. So, do we have a deal? Lena extended her hand. We have a deal. As Elliot shook her hand, he felt an unexpected sense of relief. The first hurdle was cleared. Now, the real preparation began. The following day, Elliot arranged for Lena to visit Nova Dynamics headquarters. He wanted to brief her on what to expect and ensure she was fully prepared for the evening. When she arrived, dressed in a simple yet professional outfit, her hair pulled back neatly, he noted the quiet determination in her expression. There was a slight nervousness, but no hesitation. Thank you for coming, Elliot greeted her. I appreciate you agreeing to this. Lena shrugged. It's an unusual request, but I could use the extra money. Then, with a small smirk, she added, and honestly, it sounds like an interesting challenge. Elliot allowed a faint smile. I've arranged for a personal stylist to help you select an outfit for the dinner. We'll be meeting with her this afternoon. Lena nodded, though a flicker of apprehension crossed her face. Sounds good. I'll also brief you on some key details about my company and the people who will be at the dinner, Elliot continued. Eduardo Mendoza is an important investor, and his fiancée, Sofia, will be attending as well. They are traditional and put a strong emphasis on personal connections. That's why this role is important. Lena listened carefully, absorbing the information. I understand. I'll do my best to make a good impression. Elliot studied her for a moment before offering a reassuring nod. I'm sure you will. That afternoon, Elliot and Lena met with Lauren, a renowned personal stylist, at an upscale boutique. Lauren greeted them warmly before setting to work, selecting a series of elegant dresses for Lena to try on. Elliot sat back, observing as Lena stepped in and out of various outfits, her initial discomfort gradually giving way to quiet confidence. She wasn't accustomed to this world of luxury, but she carried herself with an effortless grace that intrigued him. Eventually, they settled on a gown, sophisticated yet understated, highlighting her natural beauty without appearing excessive. When Lena stepped out of the dressing room in the final selection, Elliot found himself momentarily at a loss for words. You look incredible. Lena's cheeks flushed slightly, but she held his gaze with quiet amusement. Well, I hope it's good enough. Elliot exhaled. It's more than good enough. With the dress chosen, they finalized the details: shoes, jewelry, a clutch to match. By the end of the shopping trip, Lena felt like she had stepped into another world entirely. And yet, somewhere deep inside, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of something much more complicated. As the days passed, Elliot Vaughn and Lena Carter spent more time together, preparing for the upcoming dinner. What started as a simple arrangement gradually became something more. An exchange not just of business strategies, but of personal stories. Elliot briefed Lena on Nova Dynamics, its groundbreaking projects, and the key figures she would meet. In return, Lena shared glimpses of her life, her struggles, her ambitions, and the responsibility of supporting her younger brother. She worked multiple jobs just to keep things afloat, but despite the hardships, there was a quiet resilience in her. She was determined, resourceful, and fiercely independent, traits that Elliot couldn't help but admire. For reasons he couldn't quite explain, he found himself opening up in ways he hadn't done in years. He spoke about his own past, the sacrifices he had made, and the heartbreak that had driven him to pour everything into his work. One evening, as they reviewed final details for the dinner, Lena tilted her head curiously. Why me? She asked. Out of all the options you had, why did you choose me? Elliot considered her question for a moment before responding. Honestly, when I saw you at the cafe, handling everything with grace and confidence, I just knew. You have a natural way of connecting with people, and that's exactly what I need at this dinner. Lena smiled, touched by his words. Thank you for believing in me. The night of the dinner arrived faster than either of them had expected. Lena met Elliot at his penthouse, where a professional stylist had been arranged to help her with her hair and makeup. As the stylist worked, Elliot paced the living room, mentally reviewing every possible scenario for the evening. When Lena finally emerged, dressed for the event, Elliot found himself at a rare loss for words. She looked stunning. Her gown was elegant yet understated, accentuating her features without being excessive. The soft waves in her dark hair framed her face perfectly. And her makeup, though subtle, highlighted the quiet confidence in her eyes. For a brief moment, Elliot forgot this was just an arrangement. "You look." He hesitated, searching for the right words. "Incredible." Lena let out a small, nervous laugh. "I just hope I don't mess this up." Elliot met her gaze, his expression steady. "You won't. You're going to do great." The restaurant for the dinner was one of San Francisco's most exclusive, known for its privacy, impeccable service, and clientele that consisted of world leaders and industry titans. Elliot and Lena arrived slightly ahead of schedule, wanting to settle in before their guests arrived. A matrid led them to a private dining room, where soft lighting and an elegantly set table created an atmosphere of quiet sophistication. As they waited, Elliot felt the weight of expectation pressing on him. This deal was too important to let personal distractions get in the way. Sensing his tension, Lena reached over and lightly touched his hand. "Relax," she said softly, offering him a reassuring smile. "Everything will be fine." Elliot exhaled, her calmness grounding him. "You're right, let's make this a night to remember." Moments later, Eduardo Mendoza and his fiancée Sofia arrived. Eduardo was an imposing figure, tall and commanding, but his warm smile and firm handshake immediately set the tone for the evening. Sofia, elegant and poised, greeted them with effortless charm. "Elliot, it's a pleasure to finally meet you in person," Eduardo said, shaking his hand. Elliot returned the handshake. "The pleasure is mine, Eduardo. I appreciate the opportunity." Eduardo then turned to Lena, his eyes filled with curiosity. "And this must be your lovely companion." Elliot gestured toward her. "Yes, this is Lena Carter." "Lena, this is Eduardo Mendoza and his fiancée Sofia." Lena extended her hand gracefully. "It's an honor to meet you both." Sofia smiled warmly. "Likewise. I've heard a lot about Nova Dynamics. It's impressive what you've built." Elliot nodded, feeling the initial tension ease slightly. "Thank you, Sofia. We're very proud of our work." As they took their seats, the conversation began to flow naturally. Eduardo was deeply interested in Nova Dynamics, asking thoughtful questions about its projects and future vision. Elliot, well prepared, answered with confidence. And as the evening unfolded, he realized something surprising. Lena wasn't just playing her part. She was genuinely engaging, responding to Sofia's questions with charm and insight, navigating the conversation with effortless poise. For the first time in a long time, Elliot Vaughn wasn't carrying the weight of an evening alone, and he wasn't sure what to make of that. Elliot Vaughn was no stranger to high-stakes meetings, but tonight felt different. As he detailed Nova Dynamics' latest advancements in AI and robotics, he could feel the weight of Eduardo Mendoza's attention. The investor listened intently, nodding in approval as Elliot spoke with his usual precision and confidence. But what truly surprised Elliot wasn't his own success in steering the conversation. It was Lena Carter. She wasn't just playing her part, she was owning it. Lena charmed Eduardo and Sofia effortlessly. She navigated the conversation with intelligence and wit, seamlessly shifting between discussions on technology, literature, and even personal anecdotes that had the table laughing. Her natural ability to connect with people was undeniable, and Elliot could see that Eduardo and Sofia were genuinely impressed. Halfway through the dinner, Eduardo leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile crossing his face. "Elliot, I must say, I'm very impressed, not only with your vision for Nova Dynamics, but also with the company you keep." A flicker of relief passed through Elliot. "That means a lot, Eduardo. Thank you." As the evening progressed, the conversation shifted away from business. Eduardo and Sofia shared stories about their life in Spain, about their journey together, and the importance of trust, not just in business, but in relationships. Then, with a knowing smile, Sofia turned toward Lena. "So, how did you two meet?" Elliot and Lena exchanged a quick glance, the rehearsed story already prepared. Lena smiled. "We met at a coffee shop. I was working there when Elliot walked in one day. We started talking and, well, the rest is history." Sofia beamed. "Sounds like fate." Eduardo nodded in agreement. "It's rare to find that kind of connection, especially in our world." For a brief moment, Elliot felt an unfamiliar sensation, something beyond relief, beyond satisfaction. It was the realization that, despite the arrangement, Lena fit into this world seamlessly. As the night drew to a close, Eduardo placed his glass down and met Elliot's gaze. "I believe in this partnership, Elliot. I'd like to move forward with our collaboration." Elliot's chest tightened with exhilaration. "That's incredible news, Eduardo. I'm looking forward to what we can achieve together." Eduardo stood, signaling the end of the dinner. "Let's discuss the finer details in the coming days. But for now, let's simply enjoy the evening." With the formalities behind them, the atmosphere relaxed even further. They exchanged more stories, shared a few final laughs, and then said their goodbyes. As they exited the restaurant, Eduardo pulled Elliot aside. "You've made a wise choice, Elliot. Lena is remarkable." Elliot's eyes flickered toward her as she stood a few feet away, talking to Sophia. "I couldn't agree more," he said, and for the first time, he wasn't sure if he was just playing along or if he truly meant it. On the drive back to the penthouse, Elliot turned to Lena. "You were incredible tonight. I don't think I could have done it without you." Lena smiled, her eyes gleaming with quiet pride. "It was a team effort, Elliot. I'm just glad I could help." As the city lights blurred past them, Elliot felt a shift, something subtle, yet undeniable. What had started as a business arrangement was beginning to feel like something more. Over the following weeks, Elliot and Lena continued seeing each other, sometimes within the context of their agreement, other times outside of it. The professional lines they had drawn between them began to blur. The easy banter, the stolen glances, the way she challenged him in ways no one else dared, it all became impossible to ignore. Their meetings, once strictly business, took on a different tone. They met in Elliot's office, in quiet cafes where they could talk without interruption. Each encounter peeled back another layer, revealing not just their ambitions, but the parts of themselves they had kept hidden from the world. One evening, after wrapping up an intense strategy session for the upcoming collaboration, Elliot glanced at his watch and made an unexpected suggestion. "It's a warm night. Let's take a walk." Lena raised an eyebrow. "A walk?" Elliot smirked. "Yes, you do take breaks, don't you?" She laughed. "Not usually, but I guess I can make an exception." They left the office and strolled through Golden Gate Park, the summer air filled with the quiet hum of the city. For the first time in a long time, Elliot Vaughn wasn't thinking about deals, deadlines, or distractions. He was simply existing in the moment. And as he watched Lena walk beside him, her laughter echoing in the night air, he wondered, had he been wrong all these years? Had he convinced himself he didn't need this, when deep down he had been searching for it all along? Maybe success had never been the end goal. Maybe it had only ever been a distraction from what truly mattered. As they strolled through Golden Gate Park, the city lights flickering in the distance, Elliot Vaughn broke the comfortable silence. "Thank you for agreeing to this arrangement," he said, his voice softer than usual. "I know this wasn't something you ever planned on doing." Lena smiled, glancing over at him. "It's been interesting." She paused, then added, "And honestly, it's given me a chance to get to know you. You're not as intimidating as you first seemed." Elliot let out a rare chuckle. "I'll take that as a compliment." He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "I've enjoyed getting to know you too. You've brought something into my life that I didn't even realize was missing." Lena looked at him thoughtfully but didn't press for more. Instead, they simply continued walking, the night air cool and crisp around them. For the first time in years, Elliot felt at ease. Not as a CEO, not as the face of Nova Dynamics, but as just himself. As their time together stretched beyond the initial business arrangement, their conversations grew deeper. Elliot found himself opening up, sharing details about his past, his family, the sacrifices he had made for his career. In return, Lena spoke about her own life, growing up in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, the struggles of making ends meet, and her dreams that always seemed just slightly out of reach. What bonded them most, however, was their shared love of books. One evening, as they sat in Elliot's penthouse, surrounded by towering bookshelves, she casually mentioned, "I used to write short stories, mostly. It was my dream to publish a novel one day." Elliot, intrigued, leaned forward. "I'd love to read something you've written." Lena hesitated, a faint blush creeping onto her cheeks. "I'm not sure it's ready for an audience yet, but maybe someday." They spent the next few hours discussing their favorite authors, the power of storytelling, and how books had shaped their perspectives on the world. Elliot, who had always found solace in literature, was fascinated by Lena's passion for writing. For the first time, someone wasn't just admiring his work, they were inspiring him. Their relationship took an unexpected turn when Elliot received an invitation to an exclusive tech gala, one of the most prestigious events in San Francisco. The kind of event where reputations were solidified, partnerships were forged, and every move was scrutinized. Without hesitation, he turned to Lena. "I want you to come with me." Lena blinked, taken aback. "Are you sure about this? It's one thing to accompany you to a business dinner, but this is different." Elliot didn't waver. "You've handled everything with grace so far. This will be no different." After a moment's thought, she exhaled. "All right, let's do this." Elliot made sure everything was perfect, arranging for a designer gown, accessories, and a personal stylist. The night of the gala, when Lena stepped into the room wearing a midnight blue gown, Elliot found himself momentarily speechless. She wasn't just beautiful, she was breathtaking. The dress fit her perfectly, elegant but understated, just like her. As she met his gaze, there was an uncertainty in her eyes, as if she wasn't sure she belonged in a world like this. Elliot stepped forward, offering his arm. "You look incredible." She let out a nervous laugh. "I just hope I don't embarrass you." He shook his head. "You won't. You belong here." And somehow in that moment, he knew he wasn't just saying it to reassure her. He meant it. The gala was held in a grand ballroom, glittering with chandeliers, the room filled with some of the most influential figures in technology. Elliot, usually indifferent to these events, felt something different this time. Pride. Not in himself, but in her. Lena navigated the room effortlessly. She conversed with executives, engaged in discussions about innovation, and even impressed a renowned venture capitalist with her insight on artificial intelligence in literature. She was confident, sharp, magnetic, and Elliot couldn't take his eyes off her. As the night went on, the event transformed from just another obligation into something more. He found himself drawn to Lena in a way he hadn't anticipated, not because of the arrangement, not because of necessity, but because he wanted to be near her. Then came the slow dance. As the orchestra played, Elliot held her close, feeling the warmth of her presence in a way that was both terrifying and exhilarating. And then, he finally said it. "Lena, this started as a business arrangement, but it's become so much more to me." She looked up, her green eyes searching his. "I've realized that I care about you, deeply. You've brought a light into my life that I didn't even know I was missing." Lena's breath caught for a moment. Then, with a softness he had never seen before, she whispered, "I feel the same way. You've believed in me more than anyone else ever has. You've made me believe in myself again." Elliot didn't think, he just acted. He leaned in, and as their lips met, everything else faded away. For the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about deals, deadlines, or success. He was just feeling. And it felt right. After that night, everything changed. What had once been an arrangement turned into something real. Their time together no longer revolved around business meetings and strategy sessions. It was about stolen moments, shared dreams, and the unspoken connection between them. Elliot introduced Lena to his friends and colleagues. She quickly became a beloved presence in his world, not just as his companion, but as someone who challenged him, inspired him, and understood him in a way no one else ever had. Encouraged by Elliot's belief in her, Lena began writing again. Not just in secret, but with the confidence that her words mattered. And Elliot, for the first time in his life, began to understand something that had always eluded him. Success meant nothing if you had no one to share it with. With Elliot's unwavering support, Lena Carter finally allowed herself to take her writing seriously. She carved out more time for her stories, refining each sentence, each idea, until they felt alive. Encouraged by Elliot, she took the bold step of submitting her work to literary magazines, something she had always dreamed of, but never quite had the confidence to do. Their bond deepened with each passing day, built not just on attraction, but on mutual respect, admiration, and an unspoken understanding. Elliot, a man once consumed by his work, found himself balancing his demanding career with something he had never prioritized before, his personal life. Lena was his grounding force, the quiet presence that reminded him there was more to life than just business. As their lives became increasingly intertwined, they navigated challenges together, supporting each other in ways neither had anticipated. For Elliot, Nova Dynamics remained his greatest professional passion. But with Lena by his side, he found a renewed sense of purpose and inspiration. And for Lena, Elliot's unwavering belief in her talent gave her the courage to pursue her dreams without hesitation. Their evenings were no longer just solitary routines. Instead, they spent nights at Elliot's penthouse, cooking dinner together, talking about their day, and sharing quiet moments, curled up with books in comfortable silence. Lena's presence transformed his once sterile home into something warm, lived in, and real. One evening, as they chopped vegetables side by side in the kitchen, Lena hesitated before speaking. "I've been thinking about taking a writing workshop," she finally said. "It's a bit expensive, but I think it could really help me grow as a writer." Elliot set down his knife, turning to face her fully. "Then you should do it." She blinked, but he smiled. "Don't worry about the cost. Consider it an investment in your future." Lena's eyes softened, emotion flickering across her face. "Thank you, Elliot. Your support means more to me than I can put into words." Elliot simply reached for her hand, giving it a small squeeze. "You believe in me. It's only right that I do the same for you." As their relationship flourished, Elliot found himself thinking about the future in ways he never had before. He realized something undeniable. He couldn't imagine his life without Lena. She wasn't just his partner. She was his confidant, his equal, the woman who had quietly but profoundly changed him. And so, he made a decision. Elliot Vaughn, a man who had spent his life meticulously planning every step of his career, found himself planning something far more personal, a proposal. But it couldn't be just any proposal. It had to be perfect, something that reflected their unique connection, their shared moments, and everything they had built together. After much thought, he chose a private dinner at their favorite restaurant, a place with a breathtaking view of the city skyline. The ambiance was intimate, the setting just right, candles flickering, soft music playing, and a table adorned with Lena's favorite flowers. On the night of the proposal, Elliot was uncharacteristically nervous. As they sat on the restaurant's terrace, bathed in the glow of the city lights, he reached for her hand, his heart beating faster than he cared to admit. "Lena," he began, his voice steady despite the emotions threatening to break through. "These past few months with you have been the happiest of my life. You've brought joy, meaning, and something I never knew I needed." Lena's gaze locked onto his, her eyes shimmering in the candlelight. He took a deep breath and continued, "I love you more than I ever thought I was capable of, and I can't imagine my future without you. Will you marry me?" Slowly, he pulled out a small velvet box, revealing an elegant engagement ring, a symbol of everything he felt but had never been able to put into words. Lena gasped, her hand covering her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. For a moment, time seemed to pause. Then, with a radiant smile, she whispered, "Yes, Elliot. Yes, I will." A wave of relief and happiness washed over him as he slid the ring onto her finger. And then, as if drawn together by something greater than themselves, Elliot leaned in and kissed her, sealing their future with a promise that went beyond words. Their wedding was a celebration of love, not extravagance, a small, intimate ceremony held in a beautiful garden, surrounded by close friends and family. Lena wore a simple yet breathtaking dress, and Elliot, always composed, looked more at peace than ever in a tailored suit. Their vows weren't just words, they were a testament to the journey they had taken together, the unexpected beginning, the growth, and the love that had quietly but undeniably transformed both of them. After the ceremony, as they stepped into the next chapter of their lives, Elliot finally understood something he had spent years overlooking. Success had always been his driving force, but love, real, unexpected, all-consuming love, was the one thing he had never known he needed. And now, he had it, and he wasn't letting go. For their honeymoon, Elliot and Lena Vaughn chose a journey that reflected their shared love of literature. Instead of a traditional getaway, they embarked on a literary adventure, visiting iconic locations that had inspired some of the world's greatest writers. They wandered through the rolling hills of the English countryside, where Jane Austen once lived and wrote about love and society. They strolled along the bustling streets of Paris, retracing the steps of Hemingway, soaking in the same artistic energy that had once fueled some of the most brilliant minds in history. Every destination held a story, every moment a new chapter in their own unfolding tale. The trip wasn't just about visiting places. It was about celebrating the journey they had taken together, the love they had found in the most unexpected of circumstances. By the time they returned home, their bond was even stronger. They carried with them memories that would last a lifetime, a deeper understanding of each other, and an unspoken promise to never stop exploring both the world and each other. Back in San Francisco, Elliot and Lena settled into their life as a married couple. Elliot continued to lead Nova Dynamics, but there was something different about him now. The intensity was still there, the ambition still burned bright, but it was no longer his only driving force. He had discovered something even greater. Love had given him a sense of balance he had never known before. With Eduardo Mendoza's investment, Nova Dynamics soared to new heights, gaining international recognition for its groundbreaking innovations. Elliot, once a lone figure in the tech world, now carried himself with a quiet confidence that came not just from success, but from the happiness he had found outside of it. Lena, now Lena Vaughn, flourished in her writing career. With Elliot's encouragement, she published her first book, a collection of short stories that resonated deeply with readers and received critical acclaim. In the dedication, she wrote, "To Elliot, who saw in me what I had long forgotten to see in myself. Thank you for believing in me before I even believed in myself." Their nights were no longer filled with solitary routines. Instead, they spent evenings reading together, writing, talking for hours, and simply enjoying each other's presence. Their once separate worlds had blended into something beautifully harmonious. In time, their love story took on a new chapter: the arrival of their daughter, Lily Vaughn. Elliot, a man who had once been wholly consumed by his career, found himself embracing fatherhood with a passion he had never expected. He cherished every moment with Lily, her tiny fingers wrapping around his, her laughter filling the penthouse, her curiosity reminding him that there was so much more to life than work. Lena, balancing her writing career and the joys of motherhood, found inspiration in their growing family. Every new experience, every quiet moment with Lily, every loving glance from Elliot became fuel for her stories. Together, they created a life that was full, rich, and deeply fulfilling. Looking back, Elliot realized something. Success had always been his measure of worth. For years, he had believed that building an empire was what mattered most, that power and achievement were the ultimate goals. But now, he knew the truth. Love, connection, family. That was the true legacy he wanted to leave behind. And as he stood in their home, once a cold penthouse, now a place filled with warmth, laughter, and love, he understood that the greatest thing he had ever built was not his company. It was the life he had created with Lena. A love story that had begun as an arrangement, but had turned into something real, lasting, and extraordinary. A testament to the power of unexpected beginnings, unwavering support, and the kind of love that transforms everything it touches. As this story comes to a close, we want to take a moment to express our deepest gratitude to you, our readers. Thank you for embarking on this journey with Elliot and Lena, for feeling their emotions, witnessing their growth, and embracing their love story. From a simple arrangement to a profound connection, their path was one of transformation, reminding us that the most unexpected moments in life often lead to the most beautiful destinations. We hope this story has touched your heart, inspired you, or simply given you a few moments of warmth and reflection. Your time, your attention, and your support mean the world to us. Every story is special because of the people who experience it, and we're truly grateful that you chose to experience this one with us. Thank you for being a part of this journey